Today we will be doing a dry balance. Am I audible, Mr. Potgieter?
You want to say you can continue?
Okay, thank you. Grade 8, as I've mentioned, we are going to do the dry balance today. What is important today, we are going to focus mainly on the format. But before we start, let us recap on what we have done since term 1. In term 1, we started with the transactions, the source documents. And then after doing the source document, we did subsidiary journals, cash receipt, cash payment. And then we transferred that cash receipt and payment to general ledger. We did general ledger last term. And then now we are going to do a dry balance. We are here now, according to the accounting cycle, dry balance. Now, dry balance, what is this dry balance? This dry balance, it is prepared using information from the general ledger. You saw that immediately after general ledger is the one that comes when it appears in the accounting cycle. And then it is only prepared after posting is done to the general ledger, meaning all the posting that have been done in the general ledger, the totals, we take those totals, then we prepare the dry balance with them. And then it is having 2 money columns, meaning it is only having 2 columns. You remember, cash receipt, the payment are having a lot of columns, but dry balance is having 2 columns, debit and the credit side. And then it is prepared using only the balances and totals from the general ledger. This is very important. We only take the totals and the balances only from the general ledger. Opening balance and then also the totals that come from the general ledger. And what I like about this one is that there is no need, if you do a dry balance, you don't have to do general ledger first and then you do the dry balance after. You only focus on the totals. You take the totals and then you prepare the dry balance. And then an account which is having a debit balance will also be debited in the dry balance. And what is credited will also be credited. Now, it appears in the general ledger, if the account is on the debit side, when you transfer that total to dry balance, that total must be transferred the same way. If it comes from the debit side, it must go to the debit side. This statement explains that. You will see as we go on, but I will show you the format, the importance of debit and credit. There are some of the accounts that are strictly the same as they are. They don't change. If they are on the debit side, they are on the debit side. If they are on the credit side, they are on the credit side. They don't change. And then the total for debit side must always be equal to the total on the credit side. Meaning after all the accounts have been put on the dry balance, the total at the bottom side, it must be the same. Debit must be the same as the credit. You will see when we get to it. These are the basic principles when recording. And as what is important is the format. If you master the format, it will be easy for you to be able to transfer the information that you get to the respective book that you are preparing. So what I like about dry balance is that if you master the format, it becomes so easy for you to get the information. Let us get to it. This is the dry balance, the same way as we do the cash receipt and the payment. Dry balance, it must indicate the name of the business, the dry balance of Alma Traders or Hlapo Traders on month end or the year end, at the end of the month, meaning we prepare it at the end of the month, immediately after closing the general ledger, doing the balances, and then we post those balances. Grade 8. Now, remember I said it is having debit and credit. Dry balance is having debit and credit. The debit side and the credit side. And then it is divided into 2 sections. we have a balance sheet section account, and then we have a nominal section account. You must not mix this account. Account that belongs under the balance sheet section must not be put under a nominal section account. So meaning you must make sure that you know all the accounts that fall under the balance sheet section. Portfolio is an indication. You will see how it's simple, this one. As long as you have started with the first account, you'll be able to know the folio follows how. Now, the first account that we are going to have normal is capital. Remember, capital, the money to start the business. Capital that comes from cash receipt, that total. Capital from the general ledger, the total of capital. Section account. B stands for balance sheet section account. One is because capital is the one that started first. So if there was other account that started before capital, we will have also indicated B1, meaning it does not necessarily mean if capital is B1, it will always be B1. Just remember that it can change depending on which one came first. And what is important, the money of capital will under the trial balance will always be on the credit side. Just remember that. Even if you are given the information that do the trial balance there, when you see capital, remember capital falls under the balance sheet section account, and then the money must go to the credit side. This excess represents the money which must drawings will go to the debit side always. Always when you write the drawings will always be on the debit side. Just remember that it will not change. It will always be on the debit side. Capital will always be on the credit side. And then we have B3. B3 because it's number 3 on the balance sheet section, B3. Vehicle because it start to change. But for you, grade 8, grade 9, they will always be on the debit side. Drawings will always be on the debit side. Capital will always be on the credit side. Vehicle, debit side. Equipment, debit side. And this one, the bank. The bank, why is written DR/CR? It's because the bank, credit side or debit side. Very important. Just remember that. Bank can either go to the, remember that. It will depend on the question. If the question is there, then the money of bank says 2,000, and then it indicated next to the amount that the reason why bank is on the debit side and the credit side, grade 8. Please, this one is very important. This one is very important, but it is easy. The money of a bank account, they will always indicate. If it is 3,000, they will indicate 3,000 DR. What does that mean? 3,000 DR means that 3,000, when you transfer that money under trial balance, you will put it on the debit. Learners, I hope it is clear. And then nominal account sections. Nominal account section. Nominal account section, we have a current income, expenses, incomes and expenses. Incomes and expenses. The income and the expenses will go to the debit side. Remember here, what should I have written? Here I should write N1, but I will see it later. You will see as we go on. Rent income, because it is an income, it will go on to what side? It will go to the credit side because it's an goes to the debit side. All everything that, because we are paying our workers salaries, it will go to the debit side because it is not the money that is coming into the business, it's going to the debit side. But this one, you can take it simple as like this: current income and rent income, always because of income, they will go to the credit side. These are the only two accounts that will go to the credit side under the nominal section account. But the remaining ones, all of them will go to the debit side. Just remember it is. And then station, because it's an expense, I said, because it's an expense, we are paying to buy the stationery that we are going to use in the business. We have paid it, it goes to the debit side. And telephone, we are paying the telephone because we are making a calls in the business. What side? Debit side. And then rent expense. So this one, because it's an expense, pay attention, graded. Because it's an expense, it will always go to the debit side. So most of learners, they get confused because of rent. They are not sure. Many, but rent, last time you said rent goes to the credit side. You must be sure what rent are you talking about. Is it rent income or rent expense? So if it is a rent income, it goes to the credit side. If it is a rent expense, it goes to the debit side. Just remember that. Ne? And then water and electricity, because it's an expense, it will go to the debit side. So learners, these are the expenses of the business under the trial balance. They will always go to the debit side. Now, what is left here? What is left here is to indicate under the folio. Because current income started at first, we'll say N1. Rent income followed current income, it will be N2. Salaries, N3, goes like that. Stationery, number 4, N4. Telephone, because it's number 5, N5. Rent expense, N6, because it's on the list under nominal account section, is number 6. It does not mean that rent expense will always be with telephone before stationery. The one that you started with, you followed, you read them according to sequencing order: N1, N2, N3, N4. So meaning it does not mean that if rent income came after telephone, it will always be after telephone. No, it does not mean that. Just remember that, learners. Water and electricity, N7. You will find sometimes the salary is the one that will end the trial balance. That will be on at the bottom. So if salaries was on the, it will be simply means that is N7. And according to the basics that we did before, I did this format. I started this format. I debit all this amount this total. This total. This total must be the same. When you add credit side, it must be the same as the side. Then we say that your trial balance is balancing. Now, what you can do, you can go and take your ledger, the ledger that you have done, maybe sometime last week or term 3, or the ledger that we have just done, and take all the put the amounts there as they are. But remember this, this balance, the total balance on the bottom must be the same. I hope this one is clear, learners. It must be the same. And this format, you must at least try to practice it as it is. I can guarantee you that you will get total here. Format. I don't know, Mr. Potgieter.